Hey everybody, welcome to episode 119 of Making It. I'm Bob Clagett, here with David Picciuto.
Hello, Bob and Jimmy.
Hello, David and Jimmy. And we also have Jimmy Diresta. What's up?
Hey, Bob and Dave.
Hey, Jimmy and David. What's going on,
guys?
Jimmy's styling with that hat.
Oh yeah, I got on a cool hat, Avenue B. You know, it's funny. I'm always running late on you guys. I apologize. So I was running up the street, and I bumped into a mutual friend who was very curious about Willie. Told him what was going on with Willie, and he goes, "If I could ever do anything for you," and he was wearing one of these hats, and I go, "You know what you can do for me? You can get me one of those hats." And he goes, and he grabbed me by the wrist and dragged me all the way up the block to the store that sells them. And he's like involved with the landlord or something, and he just walked in, took one off the rack, and handed it to me. He goes, "Don't pay, get out." But
What?
That happened minutes before I got on the air with you guys, and I was like, I knew I was keeping you guys waiting, so I didn't want to be rude. He's about to give me like a $30 hat for free. He's like he's a landlord at this building down the block or something like that. I don't know exactly, but he goes, "Don't worry." He goes, "Don't." So I have on this cool new Avenue B hat, which I'll post a picture of Friday.
Just so you know, if somebody reaches on into a store and grabs something and hands it to you and tells you to just go, that's illegal.
Well, I felt too weird just walking out, so I gave my business card to the guy. In this store, it's a new store. I never walked in it. It's like a little hip-hop sneaker shop, and I never went in it because it's not really my thing, but I gave him my business card to the kid, and I said, "If you never need a sign or anything, hit me up. I'm just down the block, and I'll pay it forward for the hat." And then I ran home full speed with my lunch bag and everything and got on the computer to see you guys. And my hat still has its tag on it. Still got the tag.
Yeah, it does.
Looks
You're
like
going to leave it on there,
bust
though,
a
right?
rhyme.
Yeah, no, I got to leave it on because otherwise people are going to think I'm an old man. If I leave the tag on, it makes me look young.
Have you ever seen, well, maybe. Have you ever seen Key and Peele, the show Key and Peele?
Yeah, those guys are great.
They're awesome. So they have this one skit on, I don't know, one of the old shows about the hats. Have you ever seen that one?
I don't know if I've seen it.
So it's like, you know, the hats with the stickers and the brims have to be, you know, flat and the whatever. And so a guy walks by and he's like, "Oh, nice hat." And he's got this hat with like a sticker on it and all the things. And then it keeps going back and forth between the two guys and it escalates. So that by the end of it, there's a guy walking with a little woman sitting on a desk with a sewing machine on top of his head, sewing a hat as she's walking by. And it's got like stickers and then it's got like a glass box around the hat. And you got to watch it. It's really good.
They stole that idea from Dave Chappelle, right?
I was going to say, Dave Chappelle did it where he was working, he had the sneaker factory in his house. His sneakers are so new. Remember that on Cribs?
Well, there's a whole thing. There's kind of like a feud between Dave Chappelle and that show because they kind of...
I didn't know that.
He says like they basically took my format. They do a great job, but they don't give me any credit for it. And it's kind of... I have never seen the show, so I don't know where it's coming from. But I'm a big fan of Dave Chappelle, and I'm not sure if he's just kind of blowing it out of proportion or whatever. I'm sidetracking here, but he's got 2 new stand-ups on Netflix. One's fairly good, and the other one is phenomenal. If you love stand-up comedy, you got to check out Dave Chappelle. He's got two new episodes up on Netflix.
You know, I've never really thought about that, but their show is very similar in format to his. I used to love his show, and I'd kind of forgotten about it because it's been so long. But, that's interesting. Well, the Key and Peele stuff is hilarious as well. All of their skits are really good. Well, other than running up and down the street stealing hats, Jimmy, what have you been up to?
I just got back from Ohio and I saw David while we were there.
Hey, Jimmy.
Thank you for coming out to meet me.
I sold you something.
The laser, Dave's old laser. So now everybody expect to see me making things with a laser, so people can get more mad at me for not doing things with no electric. I see this week, all week long, I've been getting picked on for not making things without electric. I don't understand. Like, why am I the poster child that, you know, does bad things with electric? I don't get it. I asked somebody in one of my postings for my Rockler video, I said, why is it more pure if there's no electric as far as woodworking goes? Why don't we walk and use horses and still use candles? I mean, I've brought this joke up before, but I really mean it. It's like, why is there a negative connotation when it comes to electric and woodworking? Like, some guy was mad. He actually got mad about the fact that he was watching a Rockler video on the Rockler channel, me pushing Rockler products. And he says, "I can't take this commercial anymore." And then he said something about... Anyway, so it kind of got my goat this week.
I think people just feel like the more digital you get in with the making, the less hands-on it is, the less the less personal it is and the less handcrafted it is. I think there's just they don't see everything that goes into it. It's just a different way of doing something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that has to do, because I've been dealing with something similar lately, but I think a lot of it has to do with like people's idea of creating something. They like the path to get to the thing that they want is very set in their minds, right? Whereas, and if they're a woodworker, then that's typically using woodworking tools in a way that they've used them in the past or they've seen them used or whatever. And the three of us all look at getting to that goal in a different way. I mean, even different from each other, but also different from them. Mm-hmm. And maybe I'm not as concerned about being a woodworker. I'm more concerned about getting the final product. So I'll use whatever it takes to get to that thing. And I think when those two things kind of don't line up, people get real like, well, why isn't it what I was expecting? Like, why isn't it following the path that I would have taken to get there? And I think a lot of people just don't know how to say that. And it comes out as like, I could do that too if I had a $3,000 3D printer, stuff like that.
Well, I did have an intellectual, and I said it, so thank you for the intellectual comment. A guy wrote to me, and he says, I was a little disappointed that you were using power tools or something, but he was nice about it. He wasn't rude about it. And he said, I like using non-electric power tools because I like to just work in the quiet of it all. There's no dust, there's no things floating. And I was like, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought of it like that because I can't hear anything anyway, so it doesn't matter. So I said, no, I said, it's a really good comment. Like, he came on with something and then he had like an explanation instead of just being rude, saying, you don't make things as well as so-and-so. I said, well, if you like what so-and-so does, why don't you continue to watch him instead of having those expectations from everybody else? Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, and I never claimed to be that person. I never claimed to be the person that is totally unplugged and, the crafts person that only uses sharp tools. I hate using sharp tools because they always go dull. I'd rather just turn on and saw.
Yeah.
That's me. I'm just lazy. But besides that, I was in Ohio for Sean Saunders or NYCCNC had an open house, and he invited me to come a couple days early because they had an empty space in one of their classes. So I did an intensive fusion 2-day class, fusion cam, not really necessarily modeling, but all about the cam aspect of fusion. And I got to meet a couple of the guys from Autodesk, and David, we met Curtis Chan and talked a little bit about the software. And I got to meet some of the guys that actually do the development. And so there's like nuances that these guys know every answer to everything, the nuances of all the different parts of the cam and the software itself. I got to meet a ton of people. So the 2 days leading up to the open house, which was on Saturday, we got to do the class, the intensive 2-day class. And then on Saturday, every YouTuber machinist was either there or represented in spirit some way or another. So I got to meet Adam Booth and Mr. Pete 222 and Roy Crumrine and John Lewis. They're welders. And lots of guys. Lots of guys. And you'll see them in my blog. And a lot of new friends that I never met before and even heard of, which I'll now continue to watch. So it was great. It was a great weekend. I definitely made some friendships this weekend that are going to last. So it was a lot of fun. And now I'm back and I'm just loaded my truck up and I'm going to drive upstate tomorrow night with another truck full of stuff. I have electric in my shop this week, so I'm really excited about that. I got 3 220 plugs for the first time in my life instead of only having one and unplugging this and plugging that and unplugging this and unplugging that. So I got 3 220 plugs.
What are you using that requires 220?
I have I'm going to buy a new compressor, a big 80-gallon compressor. So that's 220 and my table saw and then a couple of welders. I also have a 60-amp circuit, too, for one of my very big welder that I've had for many years, which I never use because I never had the right electric for it, at least not in a convenient spot. So I'm going to be able to use that. I have a whole section that's going to be just for welding and a whole section that's just going to be for woodwork. And then Taylor's going to have, like, the sewing, nice section that's not going to be messy.
Can I ask a noob question?
Yeah.
Why would you need a compressor that powerful?
Just because it would, a lot of times if you plasma cut, for instance, which I'm not sure if I will or not, but it has to keep up with the plasma cutter is just constantly blowing air. Okay. So you need a machine to keep up with it. Otherwise, it'll stall. When you have a compressor that big, you could actually use the compressor, blowing dust and whatever else you might want to use, and it doesn't keep turning on. It turns on, but it turns on in longer intervals that you could use it without it coming back on because you have all that stored up air. And if you're going to use any kind of air tools like sanders or stuff, you need a big capacity. So that's why.
I bought a large compressor years ago, And like I got it with the intention is when I was doing scooters, and I was painting scooters, and so I got it, to have the volume to be able to paint without having to like refill the compressor. But that's the only reason I could ever find for me to have one of that capacity. And I never wanted to get rid of it, even though I don't really use it. So it's like been at a friend's house, letting him use it. But it's one of those things, like I feel like I should probably have a reason to have that, or I should just sell it. But I guess I don't really use that many air tools. Like I don't use sanders or, die grinders. That would probably be a pretty good reason to have
It's good to use them for the die grinders, because you can we have a whole collection of die grinders. Me and Taylor, we got like 10 of them now from the different ones we've picked up over the years. Taylor loves using the die grinders too with the air. So with the big capacity, you don't have to, the compressor's not going off the entire time. And if you do hold the trigger on it, if you're putting out, say, a certain amount of air out of the trigger, say 80, the compressor has a capacity of 150, it can recover while you're still just holding your finger on the trigger. And, eventually, you really should give it a break once in a while, but with a machine like that, you can it can recover a lot faster with a big machine with a lot of volume. Otherwise, when you pull the trigger on a small machine, it's just going the entire time and never giving you the full air you need. It's just having a hard time keeping up with the flow that you're trying to ask it for. That's the main reason.
Cool. So what am I working on this week? I remember the coffee table that I made a couple years ago?
I do.
And it's got the aluminum base. The top of it is wood. Well, I hit the base one too many times with the vacuum, and one of the joints broke. And instead of repairing it, I thought, hey, I'm going to make some new wooden legs for it. So I got a video coming out on just making table legs with a stretcher between all of them. And I show, so this particular table now has 4 different joints. I show how to do different joinery techniques in each leg: pocket holes, dowels, festool, and hand tools. Sort of. You'll see why when I say sort of. But so you'll see like some of the joints have pocket hole screws, and some of them you don't see the pocket hole screws at all. And I just thought it would be a cool way to kind of show like the different ways you could do this, and then maybe kind of revive that old video, maybe sell some more coffee table plans. And
can we predict which one's going to break in which order?
Yes. My prediction would be the pocket hole is the weakest. It's perfectly fine for the table. It's not going to break, but the pocket hole would probably be the weakest. And I don't know what would be stronger between the domino and the dowels. They would probably be about the same, I'm assuming.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. So that's what I'm working on. And then I got a bandsaw tips video coming out. My buddy, I may have talked about this last week, but I haven't edited the video yet. But my buddy Matt came over, painted some art on my bandsaw. And I'm going to use
I looked at that. It looks cool.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to use the art footage as kind of like bumpers between the different tips. I'm stealing some video editing techniques from Jimmy. Like, I loved when Jimmy uses spike as the little bumpers, and so I'm going to use the painting of the bandsaw as little bumpers between tips.
It's good thinking.
Yeah.
Good stealing, whatever you want to call it.
Good stealing.
You steal video, Jimmy steals hats. All right. So for me, I've actually been traveling the last 6 days or something, 5-6 days. We went up to Pennsylvania for a wedding, and that's a long drive from where we are. So we went to Richmond, had some friends there. That's a long drive, but we spent the night there and then went up to Pennsylvania, which is beautiful this time of year. It's like spring, but still a little cool. Like, I don't know what the temperature is like where you are, but over there, man, it was like a little bit rainy, really cool, but everything was super green. Pennsylvania is just gorgeous. So anyway, we went up there for the wedding, spent some time with family and hung out, and then drove back. And with 4 kids in the car, that's a very long drive. So did lots of Mad Libs, which was a lot of fun.
Nice.
But anyway, so that trip kind of, kept me out of the shop for an extended period of time. And I finished up the video for this week right before I left, and it's a knife block. So on Twitch, this guy, Eric, asked if I had ever made a knife block, and he and his fiance were wanting to make one for after they get married. And I had never even thought about it. So looked into it, tried to figure out a good way to do it, and made one last week, and it turned out pretty good. Like, it's something I wouldn't have thought that we really had any reason to have. You know, like our knives are in a drawer, just like stacked up. And so now we have this nice, I made it out of basswood, which turns out is really pretty. Like when it's raw and roughs on, it just looks like it's all the same color. It's like balsa, where it just like has no flavor to it. It's just like, beige. And turned out like with some oil on it, it's really, really nice. So made that knife block, and then now I'm working on stuff for next week. And I'm trying to get back to my 2 video a week thing where like I have a shorter kind of tip video at the beginning of the week and then project at the end of the week. So still kind of trying that out. It's working pretty well. It's hard to keep up with. I don't know how you guys do two videos a week, but
I can't do it. I want to, and then it ends up I only do it like 2 weeks out of the month. It's just it's a lot to do. Like what we do is just, it's not like making a vlog where you just edit all your footage from the day. You're making stuff and you're putting things together. So it's hard.
Yeah.
I have the luxury of being able to put repeats up. So thankfully.
Yeah.
Makes it look like I got a lot going on.
I've seen this video before. It's old.
Well, that's why I put old video in the title, and then I feel like I can get away with that. Then the idiot who says that is playing himself because it says it already in the title.
Idiot, you got played.
Play yourself.
So what are we going to talk about today?
I think we're going to answer some questions from Twitter.
All right.
So David and I both asked Twitter for questions, and we got a bunch, and we haven't really talked about them. Let's just do it.
Yeah, we haven't gone through them. We're gonna wing it. So Paul Mayette sent me an email a little bit ago saying it was too long for a Twitter, and I kind of like this question because it really relates to what's going on in my life right now. In light of Jimmy's move, what would you do with an open slate in your shop? What would you add or delete or change? This is not about your business, just the shop. Jimmy has a newfound luxury of a new space, can set up his workflow, etc. What would you guys do differently in your existing shop if you moved today? Can I start this off?
Please.
So we are in the middle of buying a new house. And yeah. And so we just had the inspection done the other day, and so we had to go back to negotiations. It's a pretty cool house. It's got 2 garages, and one garage would be the shop. And so I will be starting from, if everything goes well and goes through, I will be starting with a clean slate. And here, this is going to drive some people nuts. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to carpet.
I knew it. I knew it. Sorry, I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
No. I'm going to carpet the garage. The goal of this house is to be the last house we ever live in. And we're calling it our coffin house. And I want the shop to be my dream shop. And it's a 2-car garage, and it should be plenty of space for what I need. And I have a budget set aside for kind of like redoing the inside. So we're talking carpet. We'll probably do like the basement squares type thing. And then redoing the walls, electricity, and putting in a ceiling. Right now it's just an open frame. As far as what I would do different than my shop now, probably not a whole lot. I would probably map things out on the computer to see what would be a good setup. I might run a wall down the middle, and I might permanently close off the garage door part so I have another wall. So I have a lot of things going on in my head, and right now in my basement, it's kind of like U-shaped. So everything is along a wall, and it goes around, and it has to wrap around where the stairs and furnace is. The reason I might build a wall down the middle is so I can have more wall space to have tools up against there. And I don't know, I'm going to have fun with it. But as far as tools and stuff, I have everything that I really kind of need to do what I want now. The only thing I might add is a joiner. And maybe down the road, a bigger planer. We'll see.
Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you about that about the layout, because going from a not square or not rectangular layout to having that open space in the middle, I was wondering if you would take advantage of, having the mass in the middle that was open.
Yeah.
I don't know what you would do with it, but
yeah, it's still in the fantasy phase right now. Nothing is set in stone. A lot of things can happen. The realtor is just like, you have to be real. Things can happen from between now and closing.
Yeah.
But so I don't know. I think it definitely needs a wall, but maybe not right smack dab in the middle. Maybe a little over to one side, and that wall can be like another a tool board or just something where other tools can butt up against it. I'm not sure I want a big open space.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely drawbacks from video perspective. The bigger the open space without anything to break up the sound, you're going to get more echoes. I mean, there's definitely good reasons to have that. I had thought about in the future, because, everything I have is pretty much against a wall as well, just because the square footage is small. But I had wondered about if it would make sense to gather tools that needed outfeed of some sort into a center kind of pod that was floating in the middle of the room, so that they all kind of took advantage of each other, took advantage of the space next to the other one. I don't really know exactly how to say that, but I've never really thought too far through it. I've always just thought, like, I wonder what it would be like to gather them and not try to push everything against a wall. Because right now, like the table saw is the only thing that's not facing a wall. And like even the bandsaw is. So if I have anything that I want to cut that's like a longer cut than maybe 24 inches, I have to pull it away from the wall to be able to feed through all the way. So yeah, I don't know. I wonder how other people set up their shops like that. Have you started really setting up tools in yours, Jimmy?
Yeah, I have a layout that sort of seemed to happen naturally, which is kind of dangerous when things happen naturally for me. But what I have is basically the flow that I have in the city actually works for me. So I'm going to kind of do that where I'm always on the one side of the table between the table and the wall. And I'm always used to having like a back table behind me to collect the things I'm working with, and the table in front of me for the things I'm working on. So to put it into perspective, I have about a 12-foot table behind me that I always work on. It's always cluttered with the tools I'm using. And in the middle of that, I have a radial arm saw. And I have a big antique radial arm saw, so I'm going to use that one instead. I'm going to give the one in the city away. And that table, instead of being 16 feet along the wall, is going to be a 2-foot deep wall along the wall. It's going to probably be about 30 feet. So it's going to be 3 times as long. So I'll have plenty of room to clutter. And in front of me, instead of having one 8-foot by 4-foot table, which is what I've had my whole life, I'm going to have 4 of those. So I'm going to have 4 4 by 8-foot tables. And that's so that Taylor would have a workstation, I could have a workstation, and we could have a workstation for an ongoing project. And then in the middle, I'm still going to have plenty of room I want to leave a corridor down the center for like ongoing projects and for potentially staging bigger projects, and maybe working on a car. I have a couple car projects I've been wanting to do. So there's more than enough room to do 1 or 2 car projects at a time. So yeah, I'm going to basically quadruple the amount of like countertop space I have. And that's all going to be along the one wall. I call that the west wall. So all along the west wall for about 70 feet is going to be wood shop. And then the last 25 feet is going to be metal shop all along that one wall. So that's where I had all the electric installed, is all along the one wall. That keeps the budget down for the electric too. So if the minute we have to go on the other side of the room, we got to run wires up and over some of these big overhead doors. So I said, let's just do that. And I don't have lighting at the moment. I have a couple of big giant light bulbs, and when I flip them on, it's like the sun is on in the room. So I'm going to get a couple of those like China balls that you'd see on a movie set. So I'm going to get the China light balls, and that's going to really turn the room into like daylight at night. And then a couple of LED strips here and there. There's nothing above me, so I got to kind of create this above me. When you stand in like the wood shop area, the ceiling's 30 feet in the air. So I have to figure out something to kind of make like a thing above me so that I can have lights to actually hang overhead.
Oh yeah.
So
I wonder if you could take those super powerful lights that you have and bounce them off the ceiling so that they're not right in your eyes, but it would kind of fill more than anything else.
Well, did you ever see like at a flea market or a garage sale, there are these light bulbs? They look like, the typical light bulb base is called an Edison base bulb. And then sometimes you see that Edison base bulb, it's almost like 1.5 times larger. I don't even know what that base is called. They're like factory light bulbs. So I have a couple of those fixtures, and they take these factory light bulbs. And it's just like, it's like a light bulb that looks like would be used for Giant. So the base and everything, it's exactly the same as a regular light bulb, but just supersized. And it's a 500 watt bulb, which obviously isn't so efficient, but I might try and figure out the LED equivalent of that and make a China ball light, 2 or 3 of them in the place. So it's 25 feet by 100 feet. And then all along the giant back wall, I've seen them online. I'm just going to wait until I find the right opportunity to pick them up. The Home Depot type pallet walls that snap together.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna get like pallet racking, basically just big metal shelving that you could put a pallet on, just like a Home Depot, exactly what you see at Home Depot. So if I can get like an aisle from Home Depot, used from some other factory, some warehousing, I'll put a pallet wall along the back, maybe 3 levels high, and then the search will be to find a forklift, of course.
Yeah.
Slippery slope. That's it. I'm done. Oh my,
Yeah, it's like, and then I'm gonna need a, and then I'm gonna need a.
oh my God, I have so many, and then I'm gonna needs.
Yeah. Bob, before you answer, I have a question for you guys. So you mentioned sound before, and that's one of the things I'm worried about is the sound bouncing around and sounding echoey. And my first thought is to put like a drop ceiling in there, almost office style, and I can have rows of lights. And then I would assume like the drop type ceiling, which you see in a lot of audio studios, is a good way to kind of absorb some of the diffusion, or diffuse and absorb some of the bounce.
Yeah, it just cuts into your overhead, like your space. Just the more stuff you add. Like I've thought about that as well. Just what can you do to the ceiling that's not going to drop the ceiling to you too much, to make it feel cramped, but at the same time kind of grab some of the sound.
Okay, well, right now it's the big triangle. So it would need the only part where there is kind of a ceiling right now is where the I don't know what you call it, the bars for the garage door to swing up, and then the rest of it is just opening and you see the frame of the garage, and so beams need to be put across, and so I can almost make the ceiling at any height that I want.
Oh, right, yeah. I wonder if you could, instead of like making solid ceiling and then working down from it, to baffle it or whatever, what if you could put baffling material up into that pitch or wherever you decide to put your ceiling, something there that would grab it without actually bringing the ceiling down more. I don't know.
Something to think about.
I know I would, like in that case, my instinct would be to like keep it as high as possible. I know that's bad for sound, but
I wish I had. Maybe you could just maybe the walls, or if you leave it as high as you can, but then put soundproofing up and as high as you can. Because one day you'll stop poking holes in the ceiling.
That is true, and putting an actual ceiling up there gives me a kind of like a second floor as storage and everything.
Storage,
too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, good point. So, Jimmy, I have a question, and this is not a dig at you. This is a legit question. So
Sure.
You're talking about having all those 4x8 tables,
Yeah.
a 30 some odd foot long table.
Yeah.
Is that like, do you even care about the fact that you're probably going to end up covering all of that workspace with stuff, or are you actively going to try not to do that, or you know what I mean? It's just like a lot of surface area to end up cluttering and end up.
Yeah. No.
filling.
Well, I have a tremendous amount of wall space. So, and a few months back, maybe 6 months ago, I bought all this wood for a job that I didn't end up using. So it's already paid for by the client. I have tons of these planking. So maybe 40 planks, 10 inches deep. So I'm going to use that for shelving everywhere. And so I'm going to have a lot of wall space, and things won't get cluttered unless. The good thing, I'll be able to make stations for things right now. So now I pack up stuff, I put it away. So I'll be able to make my vacuum forming station instead of having my vacuum form always get tucked under the table. And along that wall, I'll have my casting station where I make my little metal castings like my belt buckle stuff instead of having that always packed away. So that was my intention, is to always have little stations. I'm going to make an ice pick manufacturing station, which is something that right now everything gets packed into boxes and puts onto the table. So that's really what I'm going to utilize my countertop space for, is for different disciplines. And I have so many buffers and grinders, and well, not so many. I've given quite a few away, but I have like three or four key buffers and grinders that I use that I'll set up in one area, and then with some ventilation behind them, because whenever you set up a buffing wheel, it just makes a big mess. And so that's really the main thing, is that I'll have spaces for different disciplines. That's the idea.
I like that idea of stations. That's pretty cool. Are any of those going to be mobile, or are they all going to be kind of fixed?
Well, one thing I'm going to do is, because I know I've talked about this, I'm like the boy that cried wolf, and I am still making plans to build my building, the one that's going to be on my property. So all these tables I'm making are also with the idea that if I ultimately leave this space, I'll take them with me, or I'll be able to utilize them, they'll be mobile. So I'm going to make all these tables with steel frames, 2-inch square tube steel frames. It's going to be a video with Lincoln. And the 2-foot tables on the wall, they're all going to be separate tables that I can then take with me, as opposed to everything being built in place which is something I've always done. You build a table in place along the wall, and then you can't move it unless you rip it apart. So I'm going to make these steel frame legs, and I'll be able to, if I needed to put 4 of them together to make a big table for some reason, I'll be able to move them off and put them all together. So where it comes to grinders and that type of stuff, they'll definitely be bolted to the table, but things are really going to be more like that's the area for this and that's the area for that. But things will definitely be, fluid in a way.
Yeah. Bob, when you go to post this up online, please keep in mind the possible title of Buffin' and Grindin'.
I'll make a note. How about that?
Buffin' and Grindin'.
Buffin' and Grindin'.
Okay.
That's what
cool.
My second channel's name is, Buffin' and Grindin'.
Oh, no, yeah. Don't go search for that. Yeah.
Bob.
Yes.
Clean slate.
Clean slate. I mean, I've thought about having stations for things as well. I want everything to be mobile, everything that possibly can. Even if I had like a huge space, I just change my mind so often about like how I want things to work, and I just would want absolutely everything to be mobile. So right now, I definitely have really bad storage for lumber and for like all the materials, consumables, everything. And so I would love to have a really like dedicated and organized corner that was just like every piece of hardware that I have is in this one place. Every piece of, like dimensional lumber is right here. All the sheet goods are right here, and it's just all in one place rather than like filling the gaps in between everything else like it is now. Because I would just love to be able to find exactly what I want when I want it, rather than having to like, pick through things and whatever. So that's a big thing. I don't know. I think a lot about stuff like ventilation and getting things that have the same need together. So in thinking about like what a future space would look like, I kind of think the same as Jimmy, where it'd be great to have like a woodworking section and then a metalworking section, but then I also want like a paint booth. And then I think about all the things that need exhaust out of the shop versus the things that need dust collection. So all the wood stuff needs dust collection, gathered into one corner into a collector. But then like you want the paint booth to exhaust out of the shop. You want welding fumes and any other, fume stuff. And so I've thought a lot about like, well, how do I build a central exhaust box that then has connectors that go to wherever I'm working. So if it can, maybe it always connects to the paint booth, or maybe it has like a portable connection that I can take over to where I'm grinding something or welding something. And, I think about stuff like that, like how to put things that have a similar need together, but that doesn't always make sense, right? Because you can't weld in the paint booth, but they both need exhaust. So, yeah, I don't have a great answer, but that's the type of stuff that I think about when I'm clean slating it. Like if I had an unlimited space, what would be the best way to lay things out for work, but also make them like exhaust and all that stuff in the best way. So I don't have a great answer. Sorry.
Another good thing about my shop that I'm really happy about is that it's completely unattached. It's on 10 acres and there's nobody around.
Ooh. Nice.
There was nobody. I mean, I could test fire a rifle or machine gun and nobody would care. Just good. I won't do that. I won't do that. No. I mean, I could grind and I can buff and grind all night. Nobody would say anything.
Anyway, do we have any more questions from Twitter?
Yes. Brett Yerkes asks, Mother's Day, how did she inspire you? What have you made for her? You guys want to answer that question?
Oh.
I can go first.
Okay.
I just had my mother's whole house redone. I had the whole entire thing scraped and painted, some roof work, maybe 7 or 8 windows replaced, all the lawn done, the overgrown bushes. My mother's house looked like Grey Gardens because between me and my brothers and my dad, we all have this standoff like who's going to take care of it. And then the insurance company came in and said, somebody better make a decision because we're going to cancel the homeowner's insurance on this house. So since I'm the only one that has money, I stepped up and paid for everything. And my brothers are chipping in. My sister's going to chip in. But I did the down payment, and today I got my balance bill for the finish. It was all in. It wasn't bad. It was like, let me think. It was about $9,000, $8,000 worth of work. I thought it was very cheap considering what had to be done. Some foundation cracks fixed. Just general maintenance that hadn't been done in years and years and years. So that's my Mother's Day gift to my mother. And my mother inspired me in the way that she always kept a sense of humor in light of, growing up with three boys and a daughter. Me and my brothers caused my mother so much havoc. I can only imagine some of the late night phone calls she got between me and my brothers, hospital visits, drunken blackout, fights, all kinds of crazy stuff between all of us. But the one thing my mother always did was she kept a sense of humor through the tragedy and is always very lighthearted and fun and funny. So I really believe I got my sense of lightheartedness and my ability to stay positive from my mother. So. That's it.
I don't have an answer.
Okay.
I don't remember the last time I made something for my mom. When I was in college, I used to work at a candle store, and I made her candles for Christmas and stuff.
That's cute.
But that's the last thing. I made her a birdhouse, I guess. But
I've met
now you
your
have
mother.
a project. She's very sweet.
I've met your mother, and you have the sweetest mother. Did she inspire you in any way?
Oh, yeah, of course. I think this may be a strange answer, but I think the biggest thing that inspired me about my mom, still does, is her empathy. She was a pastoral counselor for years. And even before that, she worked with young girls groups, and she was always really big in the community and always helping people. And I was just she's a stay-at-home mom when we were young, so she was there taking care of us. But yeah, she's just always had a really good understanding of people, and she's been able to support the people around her and what they needed. And that's helped me a lot personally, but it's also shown me that how important that is to do that for the people around you. So yeah, and she's just sweet and nice. Even though she calls me Bobby. Everybody's going to know that now, and that's okay, but she calls me Bobby still.
Are you sure you don't want me to cut that out of the podcast?
It's okay. Anybody that was at Making a 100 knows that she calls me Bobby because she was doing it there. So.
Yeah. Well, so my mom inspired me in a way where growing up, there was always a sewing machine in the living room or the dining room, and she was always making clothes. And that's what she did. We grew up in a fairly low income household, low enough where we got free meals in school, and government would send us blocks of cheese and stuff like that. And so mom would make a lot of clothes, and it was just cool. I didn't know that it was cool. I didn't think it was cool at the time, but looking back on it, I think it's super cool that she used to just sew and make these clothes. You could get patterns from the local library and bring them home and make them, then you return the patterns, which I don't know if that's still a thing. So that was neat to see. And a couple things that I've made for her, there's two different videos. One of my very first videos is these little cactus planters I made my mom for Mother's Day a few years ago. And being one of my early projects, I still think they look great. They're really cool, they're really simple, and they still look awesome in her kitchen. And then I think it was last year where I made the bent laminated wooden spoon. Way back in high school, way back in 1993, in shop class, I made her a bent laminated red oak spoon. And then 20-some years later, I re-gifted her that. I made the same thing, but a newer, better version. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I've got a couple of good ones here, and they might be tough.
Oh.
So one of them is from Joel Telling. Hey, Joel. Can you talk about work-life hobby balance? And then there were a couple other people that asked about, along that same idea, how do you adapt when your hobby becomes your job? Does it become less fun? Do you find new hobbies? How does that stuff switch around? And we've kind of talked about that stuff in the past, I guess, in different ways. But I have a very specific thought on this. But do you guys have any thoughts on balance there?
I do. I don't know that my situation is like everybody else's, but I don't do things that aren't fun. My hobbies have become my job. And now I don't really have any hobbies that are outside of what I do, and then if I do, I try to incorporate them into what I do. That way, I can justify these hobbies. I can make use of that time. And the way my job is, the way I've set up my lifestyle is, I can do anything that I want. I can pivot, I can change, I can do these different things. And so I try to show everybody on YouTube what my life is at home making, whether it's, I've done some photography videos, woodworking, I've experimented with aluminum, and I got a sewing machine now, and it's all one. There's no hobby professional. There's no hobby versus professional. It's all one for me.
Jimmy, you have any thoughts on balance there?
I agree. I think I'm all in 100% on making stuff. It's funny, Mr. Pete and I were talking. We had some pretty intimate conversations about life and work and philosophy. And he said, "How much time do you spend doing what you do?" And I said, 100% of my time is spent doing that, because it is my life, my hobby, and my outlet now. And it's everything. It's everything under one roof. It's my hobby, my outlet, my work, my job. And it's funny. Taylor now has the bug. Taylor has a YouTube channel, and she hasn't been able to keep up with her ideas. But now, having seen the results and people giving it positive comments and getting a fast growth, everything, she's like, "Oh, I want to make a sink for the outside. I want to do this. I want to do that." Everything becomes a potential video idea and an outlet, and also it's the proving grounds for product. So if you really decide you want to develop a product either for you or for a client, you could work on it for a YouTube video. And the idea of making a YouTube video gives you the focus to see a beginning, middle, and end. Without the YouTube mesh on top of everything, you just go, "Oh, I'm going to work on this. You know what? Let me work on that for a little while. Let me work on that." And then there's no incentive to finish anything, in a vague generality. But in the world of having YouTube as a goal, we tend to know we need to finish that. We tend to know we need to finish that and that and that. So it gives us a full-time focus.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that, but it really does kind of stretch you, doesn't it? To get new things done and to produce for the sake of production.
Yeah. Gotta feed the monster.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess my perspective is a little bit different. I mean, I totally agree with both of you, and I'm kind of on the same page as far as the work hobby end of things. Having kids adds another pretty big piece to that pie.
No doubt.
And so the balance of, I guess it would be family and not family time would be the way I would kind of break that up, rather than like work hobby. Because, in this case, it's for me too, it's become the same thing. And so I will say, like, being on the other side of going full time, it's easier in that sense, because you're not juggling three things, you're juggling two things, for me anyway. Yeah. Because the work and the hobby are the same thing, and I love what I do every day, and I look forward to Monday mornings because I actually get to go back to work and stuff like that. So that's a lot different than having a full-time job, having a hobby, and then also trying to figure out how to be good at family and being human. But I do think that as far as the word balance, like, I actually talked about this. I was I did an interview with Mike and Lauren recently, and they just put it up last week. It was a nice video. But anyway, I talked about it in that video, in that I think the tendency when you're talking about this subject or any balance thing is that the tendency is to, like, I haven't found balance. And at some point I'm going to find balance, and then everything is going to be like held in the right positions, and it's all going to be there. And like, this is everything. It's got to freeze. This is it. Everything's balanced. And I think that's what we expect, and that's what we want, because then we feel like we got it, right? And this is the thing that we hold on to. But I think that's the wrong way to look at it. I think the idea of work-life balance, work-life hobby balance, work-life music, hobby, family, whatever balance, how many other things you want to add to it, is really about keeping all the balls in the air at the same time. And so that means some of them are in your hands, some of them are way up in the air, some of them are kind of in the air. And by that, I mean that, like, sometimes my kids really need me to be dad. And that's the time when I need to be dad. And sometimes they don't care about me at all because they're outside swimming and they're doing their own thing, or they're at somebody's house. And, sometimes we have a mortgage to pay. It's just like every month. So those are times that I have to be I like to make stuff. Those are, everything has kind of a micro season within a week or within a day where things really need attention. And so I think for me, at least, balance is more about being aware of what needs my attention all the time, rather than trying to get everything in its correct position and just hold it there, because I don't think that's realistic. I don't know if that actually is helpful to anybody asking that question, but maybe if you realize that it's more fluid than you thought, maybe it'll be a little easier to swallow that, you're never going to actually have it all fixed in place.
That's a really good point.
Maybe not. Any other thoughts on that? Because I got another tough one.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. This is from Dad Rambles. And this may be tough. It may not. But he says, give each other 3 truly constructive tips that might help each other. In your opinion. Things that they could do better, all positive.
Okay.
Do we want to do this? Maybe not 3. Maybe 1. Let's do 1 each.
That'll be a lot easier. Man. I feel like I have to start off each sentence with, now don't take offense to this.
Yeah, so let's get that out of the way. Nobody's going to be offended. Everything's coming from a good place and a positive, let's build each other up, make each other better thing. Okay? That's out of the way. Mm-hmm. No preface anymore. Mm-hmm. Somebody else go first.
Jimmy, I would like to see you talk more and show more of your personality, not just in the vlogs, but in the videos. And I say that because I really connect with you when you do talk. I feel like you're less intimidating, and I that sounds like a negative thing to say, but your videos can be somewhat intimidating when you watch them and you see this guy who appears to be a master make this thing in a matter of 4 minutes. It's 4 days condensed down to 4 minutes without talking. And when you do talk, it breaks it down easier for me.
Well, thank you.
And I know that that's your style, and I know that style works very well. So.
No, I appreciate that. In fact, today I had a little revelation. Well, this week I put up my second video with the Soul Intentions on my Patreon page, that I'm going to try and do voiceovers for everything that I don't do voiceovers for. So every time I have a voiceover, every time I don't do one, there will always be one on my Patreon at the very least, just so my Patreon's growing, and I want to be able to give them something that's easy for me and that is very exclusive. And that way I can satisfy the fans that say, shut up, no one cares what you have to say, but then that is available for people to see. For now, it'll be in the Patreon, behind the Patreon wall, but maybe not forever. So
that's a good idea.
So it's something an idea I had in the beginning. I don't know why I didn't stick with it right away. So anytime I do a video, just a typical old Diresta video, in quotes, there will be an accompanying one with a voiceover. And just the same, anytime I get a rough cut done or an edit done for, say, a Rockler video or a Core video where I specifically talk, I put up the non-voiceover version for my Patrons to see. So they see it without, so they get to see in both ways, basically. And every once in a long while, maybe now more often, I should try and keep it in mind. When I have something that's hard to edit in a silent story, I'll just jump in and say, well, what I'm doing here is this, X, Y, Z. I couldn't really explain it with just moving pictures, so I'm going to come in and talk. I've done that a few times. I should try and do that a little bit more often, just bring myself in, especially in a video where it's constantly nothing but sanding or grinding or grinding and buffing. And it's just the noise over and over again, where when you don't hear that, like the dynamic sound of like hammer tapping, grinding, sharpening, sanding, buffing, then grinding. And you know what I'm saying? Like you have like the ebb and flow of all these different sounds. That I really like, so I try not to mess with that too much. But when it's just palm sanding the whole time, I'm like, I might as well talk because nobody wants to hear this whole time. There's no dynamic sounds. So thank you. I think that's a good criticism. Thank you for that.
I heartily agree with that. Let me see. David.
You said heartily.
Heartily.
Yes.
Heart with my heart. I agree with that. I
hardly agree with that. No follow up. I hardly agree. No follow
up. David, I kind of similar to that. I really enjoy the relaxed persona that you have in real life and on the podcast. And I know when you get in front of the camera, there's a little switch. Mm-hmm. Everything gets amped up, and I understand it. Mm-hmm. But I wonder if having that more relaxed, like natural conversational stuff would translate better in your videos.
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe not.
I completely understand that. And you are actually not the first one to say that to me.
Really?
Yeah. You know how you I know you've said in the past, like, you try to be the same Bob in front of every single person, right?
Yeah.
I don't know that I can be the same David in front of every single person. I'll probably act a little different in front of my mom than in front of Kelly. All the weird, goofy things they say to Kelly. And when Eric comes over, and like just today, we filmed all day today. There's just something about it when we're hanging out. It's just, Tuesdays are a good day. Like, we're just having fun. There's a lot of very
just having fun.
We're just having fun. Very off-color jokes going on. Like, we're trying to make each other laugh a lot off camera. And, I completely understand. I'm in a different mood when I'm shooting those videos than I am when I'm on the podcast or when we're at the meetups. It's the environment that I'm in. But I get that.
That's really interesting, though. I hadn't considered that. The fact that you're actually interacting with Eric when you're filming versus just being yourself, like being by yourself and filming. So that actually shed some light on that. Because, like, I'm in the room by myself when I'm filming. So I think about, I'm not reacting to anybody, but that's pretty interesting. I like you all the time. I just want to,
I like you. I really do.
I really do.
This is maybe for both you guys, considering you guys both know how to play guitar and piano. I would like to see you both incorporate that more often into what you do. Even if it just starts out at you at the piano playing something and then it cuts to, or if you're at the synthesizer and it's the opening of your show, Bob, and then it just cuts to just, so you're making the music that automatically becomes the background music, so people know that you didn't just find that track online. That and maybe I'm jealous of the fact that I can't create music, which is why I strive to find friends that make music with drumsticks or with guitars or violins or people in the street. I love it when I find someone in the street making live music and I steal it and then I use it in my vlogs. And I love that. I love to be able to do that. To be able to show off people who can actually perform music. And so I wish it was me. And if I could play guitar, I mean, I played it a couple weeks ago. It was a total joke. I can't have absolutely no recollection of how to play Stairway to Heaven. I know where the chords are on the neck, but I have no idea how to hold them anymore. I just completely forgot. But the idea that, just to see you guys play more music more often. I know you both have a little bit here and there. Dave, I remember you put up a music video years ago before we became really close friends, and I really liked it.
Thank you. I think when it comes to music, I might have a little bit of the imposter syndrome going on. I get very...
Me too.
Yeah. It's like, I'm afraid that people will actually see how little I actually know about music. It's a weird thing.
Preach it, man.
And I think a lot of musicians do that. They're like... It's just you spend, somebody like me who's not a master at the guitar or drums or keyboard or anything, like, you kind of spend your entire music career covering up the fact that you're not a master at it, and then you highlight the things that you're good at, and you kind of stick to that. And adding music to the videos adds a whole layer of complexity to the video that I wish I had more time for.
Yeah.
But like when I hear someone like the Black Keys, and I think I'm not a huge fan of the Black Keys, but when you hear them for the first time, you're like, wait, this is just two guys with a rhythm and a cool microphone and a cool drum beat. I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong. That music does not sound complex, but it sounds amazing and it's like attractive to listen to.
Music doesn't have to be complex. It just has to be
that's
good.
What I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And that's why, like, my friend Natalie, she's a classically trained violinist and a fiddle player and a music writer in Nashville, and her and her husband are both successful really behind the scenes and a little bit in front of the camera, in front of the scenes. They both write music and license music, and And my friend Natalie, who I've talked about before more recently, I said, just turn your iPhone on. She's like, well, what do you want? She's like, I don't know. I'm like, just do anything. She's like, I don't really know what you want. I go, Natalie, every time I'm with you and you tune up a violin, you play like 17 things that I would think sound like perfect music. I said, just film tuning up the fiddle. And she sent me like 10 clips. I'm going to push her again to send me 10 more. But she played that little thing at the end of the Canon video that I played, that I just posted this week, where just before it goes to the credits at the very end, she played that little clip. And I noticed a couple of people like, who wrote that song? And that's just her playing. So she doesn't think that that's a big deal. And you guys, whatever you guys are good at, you're probably like, well, it's no big deal. But, when someone like me who can't do anything, no matter if you just tune up a guitar and you could do like the harmonics, I'm like, oh my God, how did you just do that? You're like, oh, I'm just tuning. I'm not actually doing anything.
Fun fact, my old band, The Satisfaction, opened up for the Black Keys maybe 2005-ish, somewhere around there before they were big. Another band that played that night was a band called The Greenhorns, which is not a band anymore, at least I don't think. But members of them went to be in Jack White's band, The Raconteurs. And then at that night, Meg White of the White Stripes was at that show because she was dating one of the members of the Greenhorns. I remember sitting on the curb outside the bar at 2 a.m. right next to Meg White, smoking a cigarette back in my smoking days. It was a fun, crazy night.
That was going to be my next suggestion. You guys should both smoke more in your videos.
took me a long time
Noted.
to quit.
Every once in a while, I hold a Sharpie in my mouth, and everyone's like, "Are you smoking?" I'm like, "Of course I'm not smoking."
The music thing is tough. Like it was such a big part of my life for a really long time, and it just, I don't know, it became less important as I was doing other things, and then once I started having a family, and it's something that I still care about and would love to do on a regular basis, but it just, I don't know, the timing like doesn't make sense. Like you have to be playing music if you want to play music, right? Like you can't just, well, at least I can't, just jump into it after a couple of years of not really playing and expect it to be worth anything at all. And so if I wanted to play music for a video, I would have to start like playing and get comfortable again and try to remember how to, how it feels and like how to use the instruments and all that stuff. Not Bob, that I don't want to do that, but
your opening song, that kind of electronic,
yeah.
Do you think you could play that unplugged on a guitar?
Probably.
Okay. You know that's going to be the softer side of Bob Clagett. When it opens up, it's just like slow down tempo, plucking the guitar, and then like all the things are getting cut slower.
Let me tell you a story. I'm playing that, yeah.
On a special episode of Making.
Who's next?
So I suggested both you guys maybe use music, and then another suggestion maybe for all three of us. I know I'm kind of copping up. I'm not singling anybody out, but I was kind of more for you, Bob, to see more outtakes and more, when like everybody loves an outtake reel, right? I never really did one. I kind of did them a little bit when me and Dave were doing the tips videos, but every once in a while it would be fun for. Like I said, it's a suggestion for all of us, is to show an outtake or two, or maybe a bunch of outtakes in like one particular video, or maybe a Patreon video where we just put together a bunch of stuff that happened on camera. And
I put them at the end of a lot of my videos, like maybe once a month or something. There's like a little clip all the way at the very end, that's like a bug flew in my mouth a couple of weeks ago, and I said grape instead of great, and so.
Did you ever see that thing of the news reporter somewhere down south? A fly flies into the guy's mouth?
No.
You got to look at it. That's all I'm going to say. When Taylor and I are having like a sad day, like, we recently had, we put that clip on. It makes us laugh so hard. We watch every once in a while, like I'll hear from the bedroom her watching that clip. It's so funny. News reporter swallows fly in the south. That's all you need to know.
All right, so my critique for Bob, there's a theme to all these critiques so far, and they're personality based. I think it's because we know each other off camera, and we have these talks. But and you might not even be able to do this because it involves other people, but I like seeing, because I know you as a dedicated family man. I would like to see more of your family in the videos, the kids, maybe Jenny. And I don't know. It's just, I would like, because you are so, you're such a family man, and I just want to see more of it.
Yeah. That's actually come up a lot, and it is something that I would like to do. The biggest problem that I've had with that, well, I've had a couple of things. One, I've never been really sure how I feel about the line about showing like your kids on, like I show them. It's not like I'm trying to keep them away from cameras or anything, but I don't know. There's like a certain uncomfortableness of like putting my kids in a really familiar space on YouTube, you know, and like in front of people, and like I don't want to use them as props, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even the bigger thing is that I work while they're at school. And then when they're home, I try not to work so that I'm actually with them. And, you know, so that cuts out a good portion of the filming time where I would be doing something with them. And then I've tried a couple of times to get one of them down to make a project with just the two of us, because that's way easier than all four of them. And that's really hard, because then there's like three people going like, well, why can't I do that? You know? And so, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that would be good. It's something I've never really, like logistically, never really been able to figure out. So, yeah. Let's see. I need something for Jimmy. Is that the last one?
Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. You edit a lot more than you used to, I think. But I still think that there, in your projects, in your non-talking type projects, I think there's a lot of, I can't, just for anybody listening, I can't see him right now because he's got his video turned off. So I just see this big JD and then go, Anyway.
Okay, I'm back up. I turned my camera
okay.
on.
No, it's okay. You can turn it off.
Okay, that's right.
I know what you look like.
See my new hat?
There's, yes, I can see in your hat. There's gaps in between the action in some of your videos where you're moving the camera, or you're like, you set it up, you hit record, and then you move to do something and then move back, or like you move a piece. And I think those chop up the flow of your video.
Really?
And you edit so much that, and like, maybe it's not so much anymore. I can't really remember the last time I saw that. So maybe this isn't valid anymore. But,
well, you know what it is? That was always a thing. I'll always move the camera 3 or 4 times, and that little squiggle in between the camera resting again, that's always intended to be chopped out so that it becomes just another camera angle. You know, when you do something 3 times, everyone's like, how many cameras do you have set up? And I go, I always only have one camera. I just move it around because it doesn't matter what I'm doing. I can always just grab it from a different angle and just fake that same maneuver again, even if it's just pretending to chop. And I started leaving that little squiggle in, just sort of have as like a signature piece. And but there are times when I know exactly what you're saying. It's like a little distracting, so I'll take it out.
Well, I'm not even thinking of the squiggle, because I think that's actually a good like transition of I'm changing from what I'm doing to something else now. Mm-hmm. That's not what I mean. It's like and I see this more on other people's videos than I do on yours, but I had to come up with something to say constructive to you. So this is what you get. I see it a lot on other people's videos who don't have a big focus on editing, where they set the camera up and hit record, and they may go right to action and they're doing something, but at some point they have to stop doing and they have to go over and like put a new drill bit in their drill, and then they come back and do work, but they don't cut any of that segment out. So you have action, and then like pause, camera still running, oh, action again. And like in my mind, that's 2 cuts, right? Cut beginning and the end of a section, delete it, you're done. But it keeps the action moving along. And so that's what I'm talking about more than like the moving the camera from place to place, from shot to shot. Because I think that's actually kind of a good...
it's funny.
It's kind of like in-camera editing. Almost.
You know what I do? What I love, my vlogs, and I stole totally from Phil DeFranco, is I just chop out every little bump in between the audio wave. And I still watch Phil DeFranco, and he's got such a quick pace, and I'm like, how does he talk so fast? And then one day I cut out all my ums and ahs, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh wait, I'm talking in the same rhythm as Phil DeFranco. Mm-hmm. And I just go into the audio wave when I do my vlogs and just chop out anywhere there's a flat line.
Yep.
Or like, and I know exactly what, I don't even have to listen to it. I could hear what I'm going, I know what that sound wave looks like. When I go, I know what that sound wave looks like. I go, I know what that sound wave looks like. And I just go in, even though they might be a peaked sine wave, I know what the shape is. I just cut them all out. And then you hear me go, and I'm able to make it go much faster. And I have a tendency to repeat myself. So I have to like cut out whole phrases. And then I piece together, the Frankenstein together, a sentence that sounds normal.
I think pacing, if we're going to critique the entire internet, I think pacing is the biggest problem that lots of people have with videos. It's that keeping that flow going. I will finish my video, and then I will be like, okay, nobody distract me for the next 10 minutes while I watch my video, because I want to watch it from beginning to end, and I want to see the pacing. If there's ever a point where I feel like I'm bored, I need to edit something. I need to remove something, or I need to just I do the trick where I do I'll zoom in post, same camera setup, but I'll zoom in post just to kind of like help it push along. Music helps things move along, and pacing it's a learned skill.
Biggest compliment I get is when someone says, I can't believe I just watched a 20-minute video. It felt like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And now I'm going to give a disclaimer because we're talking about pacing, and I'm going to put out the slowest video I ever put out in my life because I interview 5 machinists. So you can understand what it's like to talk to a machinist. Now, I interviewed like 5 or 6 guys in my next vlog, which I should post tonight, which is a couple of days late. They're all guys I really enjoyed hanging out with and talking, so I try to capture as much of that as I could on our conversation. And I cut out as much as I could without making it seem too choppy, but the overall vlog is going to be nearly 20 minutes long. But it's just interviews with people that I know, love, and respect these guys, the few guys that I interviewed. So I just want to leave in as much as possible. It's like listening to an interview with your favorite whomever. And you want as much as you can. So I know each one of these guys I talked to are very loved and respected by their audiences, so I didn't want to cut it up too much. And there were times where I speed up conversations and people complain. I want to hear what that person has to say. Why did you speed that up? And I'm just trying to make it funny because to me it's lagging a little bit. So I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to put a video out that's going to get probably 30 views, but it's out of respect to the guys I interview that they're going to be somewhat long.
So I have kind of maybe an inside baseball question here about your longer vlog videos. How do they perform relative to like your projects and your?
It's funny. Everyone's been complaining about the algorithm this and the algorithm that, and I didn't notice anything. And then last night, I shouldn't have, but I looked at my analytics and everything's down 20%. Everything, comments, views, everything is down about 20%. And now I guess I don't know if my videos suddenly just got boring, or I'm kind of old hat, at least for the moment, until something new comes along. But everything is down.
You got a new hat. It's on your head.
Yeah, well, I hope that this new hat helps my analytics, because after looking last night, I'm not going to look for another couple months. It's like when you get on the scale and you realize you got fat. You're like, oh, well, if I don't get on the scale, then I won't gain any more weight. So that's what I noticed last night is that, my last payout was above average. So this next payout will be below average because I'm looking at my analytics now. People kept asking me. I said, I don't know. It hasn't bothered me because, a lot of guys are going on YouTube and saying, I might have to go and, go back to a regular job. I don't know if this is going to work out. They get real dramatic. And I kept seeing everything be the same for me. And I kept saying, maybe the wave hasn't caught up to me yet. As far as, I guess the big thing is people are claiming that YouTube is not suggesting your videos and other people's things as much anymore. I don't know who's getting suggested then. I have no idea. But maybe it's just the ebb and flow of YouTube in general. But my people have come to really like my vlog videos. I get really, really, really good insight. People say, wow, when you said this or when you did that, you never would have talked about that subject before, and it's really refreshing to hear you talk about this or that or anything. And, I try to always give information in the way that, like, you should go look at this person's videos because you'll learn things that I can't teach. And that's really the main thing I want to do. You should go look at this guy because whether he's a YouTuber or he could provide a service, because maybe you don't know about him. That's the biggest thing about this whole world is that you learn things from other people because they know about it before you do. And so it forces me to dig and find a story where there is none, usually. Like this week, I'm already into this week. I haven't shot anything. It's already Wednesday tomorrow. I haven't shot anything for my vlog. So I'm going to do a little bit of a detailed walk around of my new shop while it's still fairly empty and, fairly unorganized. So that's going to be next week's vlog. So it forces me to really try and find a story each week, or at least a series of conversations with people that are inspiring. And people really like them. And they always get 100,000 views no matter what. Sometimes they get 400,000 views. And I don't know if that has to do with the picture I put on the front. I assume it does, but people still have to hang out there once they're watching it. So it's such a mystery. I don't really know. I try and put interesting titles and interesting videos and interesting animal shots as much as I can. And
it'll always be a game. It's a constant game.
It's a constant problem solving situation. So
yeah.
They perform, and now I've become used to making them, and people have become used to watching them. So if I stop them, it would only be like what Casey Neistat's doing now. Is like he takes a few days off here and a few days off there. And there might, like I said, you guys know I had kind of a busy, somewhat, had a little family stuff to deal with this week, and so that kind of put me out of the game as far as getting my vlog out on time. And but there's always going to be a week or two where I might miss it totally. As of now, I'm still 34 weeks, and this is the latest I've been because of the situation that I went through with Taylor. But everything's good. It's not even a big deal. I shouldn't have brought it up, but we're good. Everything's cool. And so that's why I was late this week. But I really enjoy doing them. It forces me to keep creative.
Yeah, I think it's, from at least my perspective, it seems like it's been a good stretching thing for you to do.
Totally. It definitely got me out of my comfort zone. And a lot of people are complimenting my on-camera presence as being a lot more relaxed than ever before. And it's cool. I mean, what we all want all the time is just hang out with anybody as if we're hanging out with our best friends. And, I really do feel that a lot of the time. Sometimes if I seem pressured on camera, it's because I'm like, oh, I got to get this done. I got to get it done. And then that comes through and I'm watching the edit. I'm like, stop stressing out. I got to remember that for the following week.
Cool. Well, we're running really long, so let's come back to other questions next time. But I think that was really good.
Yes, and there was a ton of good questions on Twitter today, so maybe I should do a screen capture or something, and we can talk about them next time.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yep.
Thanks for sending in questions, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, what have we been watching? What new stuff we got? David, go.
All right, so DSLR video shooter. It's just this guy. He's got a photography video site, 166,000 subscribers. His name is Caleb. He has a great on-camera personality. He has great short tip videos, like full of informational stuff. If you're into videography, photography, check out DSLR video shooter. And I know he's a fan of my channel, so check him out.
Nice. What you got, Jimmy?
I got a chance to hang out with Brian Orgaj. How do you say his last name? I wish I knew how to say his name.
There's a lot of G's in that name.
Yeah, Brian from Michigan, great dude. I've talked about him before, but we got to hang out this weekend. Not as much as I wanted to. I was hoping to get an interview with him for the vlog, but he left before I realized he left. But check out Brian's channel. He just took a little time off. He's back now. He's a designer and a fabricator and an architect. So check him out. And then also Adam Booth. I want to give Adam Booth A-bomb. I want to give him a shout out. Adam Booth does heavy machining. And when you think you're having a hard time with a little piece of machining, look at what Adam does. And he does it every day. He machines a lot of hydraulic stuff that weigh thousands of pounds. He'll throw a chunk of steel on the lathe that weighs 10,000 pounds and spin it and does things. So it's incredible to watch what he does. Kind of reminds me more of the industrial age that I'm so inspired by. So Adam Booth and Brian, check those guys out.
Awesome. While I was on my trip, my friend showed me a channel I don't know why I've never heard of. Hampton Rutland. You guys ever heard of this guy?
No.
I think I remember the name.
Really, I don't know why I've never come across him, but he's a guy out of Louisiana, I think. And I've only watched a couple videos so far, but they're really well made. And he does a lot of stop motion stuff. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, well, Frank Howarth does a lot of stop motion, but it's very different. It's like, I don't know. You just have to watch it. Like he did a stop motion of putting up reclaimed wood on the inside walls of his barn. And so the stop motion is him doing that, but there's also like toys running around on the floor and the drills are coming out and doing dances around and making patterns while he's doing work. So it's like he's doing a lot of stuff at one time.
Awesome.
They're really well made, and he's not a huge channel. Should be, because they're good. But yeah, go check out Hampton Rutland. I guess that's it for this week. Want to thank our supporters on Patreon. as always. We really appreciate everybody, especially Make, Build, Modify, and Wise Old Dowell, which I still love that name. That's great. Yeah. So thanks for everybody's support over on Patreon. It's really awesome, and we're very grateful for all of that.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
And if you want to support us there, you can. That would be fantastic as well. One of the tiers of reward there is a t-shirt. So, you can buy t-shirts at our website, but you could also go support us on Patreon at a certain level and actually get a t-shirt from it. So, yeah. Yeah, you have options. But you guys got anything else?
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. I'm going to be at Filson Store. Any of my New York homies, I'm going to be at the Filson Store here in New York next Thursday, the 18th. I'm going to be building a mallet in-store at the Filson shop. It's on my Instagram. Look for the details.
Nice.
And I have something to promote. I'm going to be at Ken Craft Hardwoods on Saturday, June 3rd, and there's going to be tool giveaways and door prizes and demonstrations and meet and greets and all kinds of stuff. So if you're in the Toledo area, Saturday, June 3rd, come say hello.
Nice. Well, I'm going to be at Maker Faire, not this week, but next week. Bay Area Maker Faire. I've got 2 talks, one on Saturday, one on Sunday. The one on Saturday, I think, is Mark Rober and I, and they just added Laura Kampf to it. So the 3 of us are going to talk about content creation. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Maker Faire is going to be awesome.
I just supported Laura today on Patreon.
Sweet.
I wanted. She's giving away like a patch and stuff. I wanted it.
She'll probably send you one if you ask. But yeah, she's awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again for the questions, everybody. And we'll see you next week.
You know what I love?
What?
I love my new hat.